I am so far behind on tags, so this one is from the end of last year sometime. Sorry about that. Hi Booktube, it's Kim at Middle of the Book March, and today is a tag that I pulled out from last year because I'm behind. What I basically do is when I get tagged in videos, I put them in my watch later file in YouTube so I can go back and see, oh, forgot to do that one, forgot to miss that one. And I had like a dozen of them in there. So what I did is I eliminated some of them that were no longer timely, or that I didn't really have enough content for those tags. So if you've tagged me and I haven't done it, I may have gotten rid of that one, and I apologize, but I don't want to try to fill tag questions when I just don't have any good contributions. But this one I do, and it is the My Problematic Faves tag. I was tagged by Courtney Ferriter back in November, I think. And the original was created by HyeJin Starlight, who is a trans non-binary booktuber. And they read and review books, but I think they do a lot more than that. So I'll provide all the links below and you can go check out their channels. So, and this basically is a tag with prompts and or questions relating to problematic literature or authors or, authors who are either trans or non-binary or queer or LGBTQIA+, I think I said that right, or stories that relate to any characters on that spectrum. So let's get going. And I do want to say this. Nope, never mind. I'll say it at the end of the video. Prompt number 1, I've got my laptop over there. Are there problematic authors, parentheses, transphobic, homophobic, racist, etc., that had a huge influence on your life, and how do you deal with knowing this in retrospect? I could have answered this with a lot of different authors, but I picked that phrasing that had a huge influence on your life, and honestly, not very many authors have that. And the ones that do, I only have one that was problematic. Is probably one of on anybody else's list, but it's J.K. Rowling and all the Harry Potter books. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone came out in 1997, I think. But it wasn't until the third book, which was The Prisoner of Azkaban, that my daughter was given the first book as a Christmas gift by her grandmother. And at the time, my daughter, in 1997, she was 6 years old, so a little young. But by the time she became 8 or 9, she received the first book, and that was 22 years ago. So she started reading them, and it took off. We did the midnights at Barnes & Noble, waiting for the book to be released. We did the pre-orders, so we would get it the minute it was released. We did, the theme parties and birthday parties and the gifts and all the merch, the merchandise and everything, all of the movies. When the next movie came out, that was an event. That was waiting in line and all of it. And I think it was the very day, the very last book, The Deathly Hallows, came out, my second daughter had been born the night previous, and my oldest daughter came to visit me, walking into my hospital room, reading Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and she didn't want to be disturbed. So that was an event. My youngest daughter is even more obsessed with the series, and she loves the books more than the movies, actually. But my youngest daughter will be 14 in July, and she is well aware of J.K. Rowling's background, as am I, but she absolutely adores the series and all of the characters. She writes fan fiction based on the series. She reads fan fiction. She has bought 2 Harry Potter themed masks, and she bought a wand which is modeled after Bellatrix Lestrange's wand. So all of that to be said, that was a major part of all of our lives. And when she came out last year, the year before, with her transphobic comments, it was extremely deflating and disheartening. However, my daughter's view is this is an entity unto itself, and it's now gone beyond this individual. And so that's how she's looking at it. To a certain point, that's what I do as well, because I still love the movies, I still love the story. I just can't support the author. I have no desire to read anything new. I have no desire to read any of her adult novels, the Cormoran Strike series, is that what it's called? I have no desire to read any of them, and I actually had a few of them and unhauled them without ever reading them. So it was a very, like I said, deflating and disheartening feeling to just listen to a beloved author come out with attitudes like that. Prompt number 2, are there authors on your TBR, bookshelf, etc., who you know are problematic, transphobic, racist, or homophobic, and how do you reconcile this? Well, I have 3 novels by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and this is Americana. This has been on my shelf for a really long time, and I have Purple Hibiscus and Half of a Yellow Sun. I'm looking at my shelf over there. I've had these for a long time. They're unread. And this one, this book, Americana, has appeared on so many lists of books to read and best books of whatever. So I was looking forward to this. I am still going back and forth in my head as to what exactly my position on reading her books are. I don't know yet. It's not that I would buy anything new and support her. They've been on my shelf for years. So I might read this one and gauge it for myself. Another one is this one. This is Cormac McCarthy. I'm not sure. He was just an all-over shithead of a person. Took advantage of his family, deserted his children. There may be some racism. There may be some homophobic content in his books. I don't know. But I read The Road by him several years ago, and I have this one on my shelf that I've had for a long time, Blood Meridian. And this has been called his best novel. And it's also been called a masterpiece. So again, I've held on to this. I may pick it up, or it may languish on my shelf for another several years, and I may just decide to get rid of it. Another one was Paris Trout by Pete Dexter. This was a book I read last year for the Barter Horde's Backlist Book Club. Absolutely couldn't stand the book. I halfway I DNF'd it. The main character, Paris Trout, is a severe racist, misogynist, homophobe, all of it, in a really gross, extreme way. And it didn't apply well enough to the story for him to write that character that way. And I actually looked into the author's background and found some really questionable information based on news stories of his own personal background and attitudes, and it just really horrible taste in my mouth. So got rid of that book very quickly. Prompt number 3, do you do specific research or check the background of authors you read or recommend, or even just mention regarding their politics? I often do that. I don't talk about it because if I have a book that I've researched the author and it's unpleasant or negative or offensive, I probably won't talk about that author on my channel, and I most likely will not recommend that book. However, if I've read a book or I'm reading a book and I find some information, I may discuss that on my channel, especially if I finished the book or if I've hauled it. I have hauled a book, a couple of books in the past where somebody has private messaged me and said, hey, did you know this about this author? And I have looked into that. And I quite often do, because I'm looking for specific books often. I'm looking for specific stories or novels. And I want to know kind of what I'm going to come up against as I read the story. And I want to know, I want to see if there's certain content in many novels that I read. And I also don't want to be surprised by a storyline that I don't believe needs to be written a certain way so that it is gross or offensive or insulting or whatever it is. And no, I'm not that delicate. I'm not precious. And I'm pretty tough, and I can take reading a bunch of things, but there's sometimes it's too much and I'm not interested. So, number 4, what does ethical consumption mean to you? That's a good question. And typically ethical consumption means what you buy in a physical sense. Is it made of recycled materials? Will it create a carbon footprint? Will it negatively affect the earth? Where did you buy it? Are you purposefully buying something because you've looked into that? And in another way, an ethical consumption could mean buying books specifically geared towards literature written by an author or a specific author, or buying books from an independent bookstore versus a corporate conglomerate, or buying used books, not creating any new paper waste, or buying ebooks. That's a little questionable, or getting books from the library. So there's a lot of facets of that definition, in my opinion. This particular book, one of my favorites of the year, is Greenwood by Michael Christie. I finished this. This is a glorious book. And this entire book is made from recycled materials. It is, let's see, it says there's a whole description in the back. Certified by the Forest Stewardship Council. It's printed with vegetable-based ink. It's biodegradable. The glue is biodegradable. The plant where the books were produced uses only hydro-generated power. This entire book is an ethically generated book. So this would be a really good example of an ethical consumption, in my opinion. Okay, prompt number 5. Which or how many transgender and non-binary authors have you read? I have read several. Last year, I think, I read George by Alex Gino. This is a wonderful, heartwarming story about a elementary school-aged transgender girl. And Alex Gino is a non-binary author. This is a middle grade book, extremely heartwarming, informative for this age group, and I loved reading that one. This one is, I've talked about this one a lot, Amateur by Thomas Page McBee, who is a trans man who was the first trans man who boxed the boxing match in Madison Square Garden. And he is very transparent about his earlier life and his transition, and talks about living in the city and the United States as a woman and as a man. So that was an excellent book. Let's see, I've read The Deep by River Solomon, who is a non-binary author, and would love to pick up their newest book. And I think their previous novel is An Unkindness of Ghosts. I'd like to read that one as well. Denez Smith, Don't Call Us Dead, I thought was brilliant. They are a non-binary author, and they have a collection called Homie of poetry, which I also would like to read. And another notable author who is a Black gay drag queen in the UK is Dean Atta, and he wrote a book called The Black Flamingo, which I really liked. I read that late last year, early this year. And I thought that was really good, and it's actually very good for younger readers. I think it's a YA novel, but I really enjoyed it. Oh, let's see, number 6. Is there a transgender and or non-binary author that you really enjoyed or would like to mention? Or is there one on your TBR you're really excited about? I already did mention a few, but there's another book called This Is How It Always Is by Lori Frankel, which I read last year. Lori Frankel is a cis woman author who has a transgender child, and the book is about a transgender child, and it's an adult novel, and it's about how the family changes in this process of their child transitioning. And it was very enjoyable to read, but as I think I said this, she's the parent of a transgender child, and she includes a little bit of her biography in the back of the book. Let's see. I have a book on my Kindle called Gender Outlaws, which I'm looking forward to. The Trauma Cleaner by Sarah Krasnostein. I think that's how you pronounce her name. She is a trans woman author. Oh, I have a whole list. I think I got ahead of myself, but it'll make sense in a minute. Number 7, how diverse is your bookshelf? And if you don't have a lot of books, your overall reading habits, I have a lot of books. How diverse is it? It is overwhelmingly female and white. However, I look around quite often and I'm trying to be a lot more well-rounded. So the books that I currently purchase, I'm very conscious of my interests, what I want to read, and who the author is. And so I'm really making an active effort to buy certain books from certain authors. I think I mentioned this in my videos previously, I did a demographic study of my book group books over 20 years, and it was embarrassing at how few Black authors we had read, how few Asian authors, how few that we knew of, LGBTQIA+ authors. So it was embarrassing to me. And very shortly after that, I brought my selection to the group, which were all African-American authors, and that's when we read N.K. Jemison's The Broken Earth trilogy. So that was incredible. Loved the 5th season. So that was a really good experience, but it took some self-awareness and some knowledge to start to make those changes, to make a difference. Like, I can't believe how white my collection is, and it's not so much like that anymore, but it's a constant evolution. Number 8, do you specifically aim to read more diverse authors, especially trans and or non-binary? Yes, I think I just talked about that. I want to read Homie by Denez Smith. I want to read Gender Outlaws by Kate Bornstein and S. Bear Bergman, who are both trans authors. The Trauma Cleaner, Fairest by Meredith Talusan, who is a trans woman. And I believe she also has albinism, so that's a very interesting intersectionality. Life is a Unicorn by Amru El Kadi, who is a queer drag queen. Hurricane Child by Case and Calendar, which is a middle grade book, but they are a non-binary author. And The Death of Vivek Oji by Akwege Meze, who is a non-binary author. Several of those I already have, so yeah, they're already available to me. Number 9, boost some trans and non-binary and or queer booktubers or other diverse small booktubers. Kit at Kit's World is he identifies as queer and bisexual, and he has a small channel, which I really love. He's super interesting. He also talks very clearly that he has bipolar disorder and is on the autism spectrum, so he's a really interesting person. Weston at Weston Hearts Words is a non-binary booktuber who refers to themselves as they and them. I really like their channel, and they are taking part in maybe Midrash, and I think they have joined the Quaker denomination, and it's so fascinating to me, and we've had a little bit of comments back and forth on BookTube. But very interesting. I love their channel. I love looking at the books they're presenting and selecting, so go check them out. And Ziggy Willpower. Ziggy Willpower is a transgender booktuber. Again, they do a lot more than just read books and review. So there's a lot of content there. Very interesting. They are very transparent about their transition and have documented that on BookTube. Number 10, tag some people, especially cis allies. This is what I was going to say earlier. Only do this tag if you're comfortable doing it. This is not something I'm going to be offended, sorry, or insulted by. If you choose not to, that is completely okay, I understand. But I am tagging Karen Evans, I am tagging Gemma at Read a Book Gem, and I am tagging Britta Bowler, who I don't think I've ever tagged Britta in a tag, so you're all tagged. Thanks so much for watching. Write a comment down below. Don't give me a thumbs down, just switched off the video. Thank you for watching. Talk to you later.